Alright, for this film, I do have some mixed feelings about some parts of it, but overall, I think it's a pretty great installment and a pretty great way to end the trilogy. So let's dive right into it. This was definitely a great way to reintroduce Oogway into the franchise because, as a lot of you know, he is one of my most favorite characters ever. And really glad to see the wise old turtle back with even more wise sayings. The beginning fight with him, I think, is actually the best fight scene in the entire movie. It's not the best fight scene in the entire franchise. I think that still goes to the building collapsing in the second movie. But that is definitely, I think, the backdrop and the whole like spiritual land it had. So everything's kind of floating around. I think looked really great, and it really took itself seriously there. And that really is the overall problem for the rest of the movie. Is it's just a little too goofy. It doesn't. I'm love the second movie so much for taking itself more seriously when I had to, but the Panda Village, I just didn't really like it all that much because in the second movie they kind of feel set up to be a little bit more wise, or I guess held together. And I mean, I'm glad they're happy after that whole genocide thing, but same thing with Poe's dad. You feel like it would be. I mean, I understand why he wants to keep his son safe. Nothing wrong with that plot line, but like, I thought he would be more of a fighter, considering how he saved his family during the whole Lord Shen attack in the village. I do love it when Poe meets up with Oogway again. It's one of my favorite scenes towards the end of the movie, and I think it just really works as showing how well these two characters work together and why, in the first place, Oogway chose Poe. I'm actually was sad that they didn't get more scenes together in like the first movie, because one of my favorite scenes in the whole franchise is when Oogway picks Poe, and now I guess we kind of know why he did that because of the whole Panda Village thing. But it adds more depth to the franchise, which I like. But in the scene, I think we just see that Poe and Oogway are actually a lot alike, and I like that. I like Poe's character arc in this film of learning kind of the same thing Shifu did in the first movie, was to not teach people to be someone else, but to teach them who they are. So he really does become a true master in this movie, and I think that's definitely why this is the end of the trilogy and why it works so well, because it does conclude that. And now on to the next great character to talk about, and that's Mr. Ping. And Oogway gets a lot of credit for how wise he is in this franchise and all his quotes, and deservedly so. But I think Mr. Ping also deserves a lot of credit too. I mean, his quote in the first movie about like, just because your story doesn't have a happy beginning, I mean, look where it is now. Don't let how your story started define you. Was very very good. And in this movie, he has another quote where he's talking to Poe's biological father and says it. Just because you're in his life now doesn't mean less for me. It means more for Poe. So he's just that. Yeah, he's definitely grown a lot too, like all the other characters. I love that scene too of Ping and Lee talking because it just felt, it felt very needed for them to have that conversation, and it. And I also love the scene where Poe talks to Lee about his mother. I love Mr. Ping growing closer to all the other baby pandas because they remind him of Poe when he was younger. I also like Lee, or Poe's dad. I mean, I'm glad they made him a more complex character with depth, and we saw how that tragic event really affected him and how he decides to think and do now. I love how this film can get that family message across too, about how Poe can have both these people in his life, Lee and Ping. Like, doesn't what's like Mr. Ping said earlier, yeah, it's just means more for Poe. It's just a very nice message some people I think need to hear. Also, once again, the animation is super good. The lighting, the characters, everything. Like, it just looks perfect. I mean, it's incredible to look at, and especially the montage scenes. I mean, these movies have all had the best montage scenes like ever. Also, this film really expands with the world building just like the last film did, and I do really appreciate that. I mean, like, again, these are really good sequels because the world feels lived in, and just adding more to the franchise as a whole, and not in a way that feels bad. It actually feels really, like it deserves it. Again, the music was incredible, and I also just love this movie. I like this other movies done, where it goes into different characters' past. Because the first movie was kind of Shifu's past, then Poe's past, and now Oogway's past. So I thought that was just very clever. Overall, most of the action scenes were great. The characters were great, and it was a good ending to the trilogy. So, pretty good movie. Well, that's all I got for today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.